Okay, terrific. So glad to have you. Thank you again
Thank
for
you. My
sponsoring.
pleasure. Hi, everyone. My name is Mike McGinn. I'm the owner of Comfort Keepers in Palatine, Illinois. We're in our 18th year of providing high quality home care services to the Chicago Northwest suburbs. Our emphasis is ensuring our clients can remain safely in their homes as soon as possible. Often that's with amazing caregivers in place that can work with our clients from the early stages of need all the way to the final stages of their life. We also provide respite care for family or private caregivers. I know most of you know what caregivers do, of course, but we assist also with the basic activities of daily living, like cooking and cleaning and laundering and med reminders and personal care. But a big part of what we do is bring companionship and social stimulation to our clients who often live alone. And of course, in these COVID times, are isolated from family and friends. And so we're really the for the family and providing that stimulation to them. And also for any of you that would like to join the Comfort Keeper family of caregivers, don't hesitate to contact our office. We're always hiring. It is also my pleasure now to introduce Susan Robbins. Susan has worked in the long-term field for over 25 years, assisting people living with dementia in various community settings. She has worked for the Arbor company for over 10 years, serving as an engagement director and dementia care specialist. In her current role as regional director of dementia training, Susan coaches and trains employees on dementia care using the Arbor company's cognitive care training tools, as well as her own experience. She also provides education to families and the community at large in the Atlanta area. And without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Susan.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. It has been an exciting conference so far, symposium, with lots of stuff. So hopefully I'm going to be able to add to what you've learned this morning and get a little better idea of what the journey itself looks like for your loved one living with dementia. Because dementia is more than memory loss. Normal aging and dementia. When you're a caregiver, sometimes you question yourself, do I have dementia as well? When you're tired and overworked and not finding those moments to take care of yourself. So I'm going to kind of give you some pointers on what is normal aging and what is dementia. Normal aging, you move slower. It takes you longer to do the same things. What used to take 5 minutes may take 15 minutes. For myself personally, I know when I clean my house on the weekends, it seems to take me a lot longer. What used to take the morning takes almost all day now to complete, but that's a normal aging process. But for somebody living with dementia, even the simplest routine tasks can become frustrating and forget the steps. I may brush my teeth, but not put any toothpaste on it. I may wash my kitchen floor if I'm still living at home, and I don't wash it. I just kind of wash spots and do it. So I can still do things in the early stages, but I miss parts of them. Hesitating more, normal aging. I can still do everything I used to do, but sometimes as you age, you need modifications. But people living with dementia start to withdraw and don't make good decisions. Memory loss is what we think of first, but actually the frontal temporal lobe is what is damaged first through dementia, through all the different types of dementia, and which is where my reasoning comes in, and I don't make good decisions. And maybe I'll stop doing things altogether and make excuses why something's not done. I love this one. It is normal aging to have difficulty with name recall. Everybody has problems remembering names as they age. I know my neighbor who's lived next door to me for 20 years, but I can't remember her name. That's okay, normal aging. But as people progress through dementia, they don't recognize people for the role they play in their life. I say, I don't know her, even though she's been my neighbor for 10 years. This also happens with your own loved ones. They may not recognize you because with dementia, I travel back in time and I don't lose my feelings and my emotions for my loved ones, but I'm not able to recognize the role you play in my life. So I may many times think my grandchildren are my children because that's the time period the dementia is allowing me to live in. That's why I get confused. Or one that's really tough on family members is I may think that my son is my husband. Because if I am traveling back in time, which happens with dementia, I think I am 30 years old again. And if I'm really 80 and my 80-year-old husband comes to visit me, if I'm 30, I'm going to say, I am not married to that old man. I don't know what you're thinking. But my son comes to visit who has familiar habits, maybe the way I walk, maybe words I use, maybe how I look. You look like my husband did when we were 30 years old and together. So that's who I recall you as. It's not that I don't still love you. I just don't recognize what role you play in my life. And this one is a really tough one for families loving somebody that lives with dementia. Pausing to find words, normal aging. I can describe it, but it takes me a second to come up with a name. But people living with dementia have problems finding their words, but more importantly, understanding yours. If I don't understand you, what I need you to do is use less words or give me visual cues. I have trouble using nouns, and I also say things like flip-flops or flips instead of flip-flops. And when I do this, let it go. I'm not even aware I've done it. And pointing it out only causes frustration. Needing reminders, normal aging. We all need reminders for things. Like handwritten notes, or maybe you have it on a calendar, or maybe you put it up on the refrigerator. And if you can't remember when something is, with normal aging, you know how to research it and find out what the answer is. But people living with dementia can't hang on to recent information. They forget things. They even forget that they had breakfast, and they don't think they have. And trying to convince me that I've done something that I think I haven't done only creates an argument. If I think don't think I haven't eaten breakfast, give me a little something else to eat instead of trying to convince me that I have, because my short-term memory doesn't allow me to recall that. And I may keep calling you, when is my doctor's appointment? When is my doctor's appointment? Probably all of you experience something like that, or when are you coming? Well, I put the note on the refrigerator. But with dementia, I don't know how to go back and look on the refrigerator, even though that's where I've always put things. Dementia is more than forgetfulness. It affects how we think, our impulse control. That's why I just spew out whatever comes to mind, I'm going to say it. Attention span is very short, and I get easily distracted by noises and other things going on. Problem-solving abilities go away. I can't think through a solution, and I get frustrated if I don't have my needs met immediately. Sequencing, I may not be able to get dressed or forget something to do it, or if I'm at home, I may make a grilled cheese sandwich and forget to put the cheese in there and then get mad because somebody stole my cheese. And of course, my memories, I don't have current memories, but I do hang on to how I feel and how our interactions were. I may not be able to recall what we did on your visit, even though it was a great visit, but I do recall how it felt when you were visiting with me. I do hang on to that. Language skills, I start to lose my ability to form words, use the wrong nouns. I'm more apt to describe something. And when you fill in the blank for me, I get angry because that word is no longer part of my vocabulary. And comprehending, we've talked on that several times. And one of the biggest things, I can't hear you, many times is the way somebody living with dementia is hiding their dementia. It's easier to say, I can't hear you than I didn't understand you. Binocular vision and monocular vision. As you progress through dementia, your field of vision gets very tiny. It's always important to approach somebody from the front that's living with dementia, because that peripheral vision gets narrower and narrower. And eventually it feels like you've got looking through binoculars, where that field of vision, I don't see people sitting next to me. And then monocular vision, where I lose my depth perception. Fine motor skills and sensory tolerance and needs decline when somebody has dementia. Fine motor skills, my ability to do buttons. If you have a loved one that's in the later stages of dementia, make sure that you have clothes for them that allow them to get dressed themselves that do not have buttons. Elastic pants become it allows that person to stay independent that much longer. Sensory tolerance, noise. If you come to visit me and you want to have a conversation, it's much easier for me to follow your conversation in a quiet environment. If we're watching TV, you watch TV and don't try to have a conversation. But if you want to have a conversation, you need to turn the TV off, and it'll make all the difference in your visit. Arbor Gym Levels explains what somebody's journey through dementia looks like and what we can do to live in their world. People living with dementia function much better if we try to reach where they are instead of trying to bring them back to where we are. Gym level crosswalk, sapphires, that's us. The gym levels are based on the clinical Allen scales. That's no dementia. Diamonds are that early stage of dementia, and it's an Allen level 5. Emeralds are kind of that middle stage of dementia. And emeralds, we're going to dig deeper into these, but emeralds are the stage where if you're caring for me, it can be very difficult because I no longer understand I have any dementia or deficits. Diamonds, whether they're aware of a diagnosis, and maybe they haven't even been diagnosed, but they're aware, they're forgetful, and not doing things quite the way they used to do it, and can become withdrawn. But they understand why you're there and that they need help. By the time I'm an emerald, I've lost that ability to understand why you're trying to help me with something. Ambers, rubies, and pearls are the later stages in dementia, and they really need us to enter into their world to get help. So diamonds, brains are true blue, you and me on a good day. Now, I'll be honest, if you're caring for somebody with dementia, you may have days that you may recognize yourself in some of the lower gems, but it's a temporary situation. They can learn something new independently without demonstration. And this person can independently anticipate problems and hazards, and they can think ahead in a plan to avoid errors. That's us. As I begin to get in the early stages of dementia, these people living with dementia can really shine, but they can be rigid and cutting. The frontal temporal lobe, which is what makes you think through things before you say them, goes away. They can learn something new with demonstration and directions from other people. I need a little prompting with brand new things, but I can figure it out with a little bit of your support. But if you left me to read directions, I might have a little bit of a hard time doing it. I might just set it aside. This person can perform their ADLs independently. Now, this means that I can help, I can get dressed, I can brush my teeth. I don't need reminders to do the daily things that I used to do. Now, I may need some physical help, but I don't need cognitive help. And that's kind of the gym levels are talking about people's cognitive abilities, not their physical abilities. And what this may mean, I may get dizzy when I bend over, so I really am not safe putting on my own shoes. But when you go to help me, I know to lift my foot up. This person can follow a schedule using a clock, watch, or a calendar independently to get to appointments or activities on time or watch a favorite TV show. But this can become a challenge for you as the caregiver. Diamonds are struggling to stay in control. I'm aware of my deficits, whether I'm aware of been diagnosed or not. So when you tell me you are going to be somewhere at 3 o'clock, you better be there at 3 o'clock. Be prepared. If you don't let me know ahead of time that it's going to be 3 minutes after 3, I may be agitated by the time you get there. How dare you be late? You don't value my time. I'm here. You should be here. But it's not about the time. It's part of the disease, and I'm having a hard time staying in control. But I have control over what time something is supposed to be. So time becomes very important to those living in the early stages of dementia. And when doing leisure activities such as a craft, this person can match samples and do things without cues if they have some visual cues to go along with it. You know, this is where if you set something out, I can follow and copy it. I'm starting to copy things, and I need those hints and cues to really stay functioning. The biggest thing is, also can be hard for you, is if I think it, I'm going to say it. We have all thought things about people that we would never say out loud. If somebody has put on a bunch of weight, you're not going to say, "Ooh, you've put on a bunch of weight." But somebody living in the early stages of dementia might just say it right out loud in public or embarrass you. Or they may make a comment when you're in the grocery store together about something that somebody has on or the way somebody's behaving, where it can be overheard because my judgment and reasoning is gone and my filter is gone. So if I think it, I will say it. Then we have our emeralds. Emeralds can be a challenge. They are on the go and not sure where, and I'm starting to travel back in time. If you place all the clothes on the bed and tell someone to get dressed, they can put all their clothes on without any step-by-step assistance or cueing. But if you leave it to me to get dressed on my own, I may come out in something that's not weather appropriate. You know, I've gone to my closet and I love this little pink shirt, but it's snowing outside, it's freezing, and I put on this little pink shirt because it's what made me feel good in the moment. I can't process and reason past the moment I'm in. And that's what I want for the moment, so that's what I'm using for that moment. So offer me a sweater. Don't try to correct me and share with me, because at this point, my brain no longer lets me reason out why I should do things. And when you try to reason with me, I get frustrated and angry. And remember, frustration and anger is actually a form of communication. I'm trying to let you know I either have an unmet emotional or physical need. If you lay out all the supplies again, brush your teeth, they can do those things, but I may skip a step or two. And they can remember goals of simple things such as bingo, dice, or card games. Introducing new things, new events to people that are emeralds is very difficult for them. And I get frustrated. And this is dumb. I don't want to do that. I don't want you to do that. Or if you just ask me if I want to go out to eat, where would you like to go? That is an overwhelming question for somebody living in the middle stages of dementia. I don't know, I can't think. Start to give me choices. It's vitally important that you start to offer your loved one choices when they're doing things. Would you like to go to Zaxby's or McDonald's? And you may know which one they're going to pick, so you would do that. But if you don't ask them with giving them choices, they become frustrated and I don't care, I don't know, but they really do care. They do have feelings and opinions on things, but I can't come up with the words with them. Do you want to go for a walk with me? Do you want, hey, let's go for a walk. Think about what you're saying before you say it. Another great way to greet someone that's at this stage, instead of coming in and saying, good morning, how are you? Good morning, it's so good to see you. That feels totally different. It allows them to connect and they're not struggling for an answer. Because you and I can, well, good morning, how are you? And that's not a real question most of the time. Most of the time it's just meant as part of hello. It's a polite way to say hello. And you don't expect an in-depth description of how somebody's doing with your casual hello. So when you first come in and say, good morning, how are you? Or good afternoon, or just hi, how are you doing? The emerald has to stop whatever they're doing, refocus. I don't know, is there something wrong with me? Did I do something wrong? You set off all these questions and confusion in their brain, trying to come up with an answer. So approach me. It's so nice to see you. It's a much warmer feeling because it's about my feelings, not my communication skills. Give samples, offer choices for doing things, and try not to correct me at this point. The other thing here, emeralds, I'm starting to lose my language skills here and I'm losing my nouns. So every morning I get up and I say, oh, would you bring me my breakfast? I want that, the yellow thing. The yellow thing is kind of shaped like a boat, and you pull down the sides. Get me the yellow thing. And you go, you want a banana? No, I want that yellow thing. Get me the yellow thing, is what they're going to say, because it's not, they have described a banana, and you know them and you know that's what they want. But the word banana is no longer part of my vocabulary. So I start to describe things. Okay, you want the yellow thing, and get them the yellow thing. Sometimes you can figure out what it is they want because you know this person, and sometimes you can't at all. Another thing that happens at this stage is lots of times we'll find women are walking around looking for a pocketbook, and they've got their pocketbook on their arm. And they'll say, well, Mom, it's right there. And they're going, no, that's not it. That's not it. Because I'm traveling cognitively back in time, and I'm looking for something such as maybe my purse that I had 20 years ago, the little red one that was so cute. That's what I'm looking for. It's not that what I have on my arm isn't actually my purse, but it's not the one that I'm looking for. And that's where the communication skills start to decline, and we have to start looking at what they're doing. Well, what does it look like? What color is it? Simple questions, but one at a time. And also slow down and allow your loved one to respond to you at this stage. These are the stages that become very difficult because I still physically appear very normal, but my brain has progressed. I haven't lost all my physical skills, but I have lost a lot more of my cognitive skills. And it makes it much harder to have the patience that we want to have and give to that loved one. Meet them where they are instead of trying to bring them back. I'm going to ask you repetitive questions. What time is lunch? What time is lunch? Do I have any tuna fish in the cabinet? Do I have any tuna fish in the cabinet? Answer those questions as if they have asked you for the first time. Because at this stage, I don't remember asking the question. It's not that I didn't remember your answer. I don't remember asking the question. And if I ask repetitive questions, if I keep asking about food, what I'm really telling you is I'm hungry. Or what time is it? What time is it? Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I need to nap. So try to be a little bit of a detective here and figure out repetitive questions means I have either an emotional or a physical need. Ambers are caught in the moment. This is the Allen level 3. This is starting to really progress. I'm starting to lose some of my fine motor skills here as well. This person can hold and use familiar objects such as a fork or a spoon, but it may be hard for me to do. I may not be able to manipulate them properly, or maybe just forget. They can follow one-step directions with verbal and visual demonstrations. I need visual cues for almost everything I do. If you want me to sit down, you may have to sit down too. Or you want me to stand up, you may have to bend down next to me and then stand up with me for me to even understand some of the simplest tasks. Getting me dressed. I want you to think for just a minute. This happens a lot in this stages. The lower levels are high ambers, because I'm caught in that moment. Each of us gets dressed in a different way. And it's probably a pattern. It's like some people always put their pants on and then a pair of socks if you're wearing socks. Or other people put on their socks and then their pair of pants. And if you are assisting a resident to get dressed, or your loved one with dementia through this stage, and all of a sudden, no, because you're trying to put my socks on before my pants. In my brain, living with dementia, you're an idiot. Don't you know your pants go on before your socks? I can't make that process change. Whereas you and I, if I needed assistance for some reason, I wouldn't argue with somebody about whether they put my pants or my socks on first. But with dementia, I'm trying to hang on to the moment I'm in at time, and what you're doing doesn't make any sense to me. And I need you to live in my world. Also, helping as a caregiver, if your loved one, has always put their makeup on, that was always important, that mom's makeup was on perfect. Make sure that's the last thing you do when you're getting me ready, because it's going to leave me with good feelings for the rest of the day. Because remember, I'm not going to remember that you helped me put my makeup on, but I am going to remember that I felt good around you. Finding that last thing. Maybe it's somebody's really loves shoes, so the shoes are the last thing you do. Get to know that person. Watch their body language as you're caring for them and figure out what that last thing is. And it has nothing to do with the proper sequence of getting ready for the day. Men, it may be slapping their cheeks with some aftershave, and it can be water, but it's that action that makes them feel good at the end of the day. Sometimes I've had people that didn't want to interact with anybody because they didn't have their lipstick on. We've got great opportunities now, even if you don't, lipstick can sometimes be a mess, but tinted chapstick can work great at this stage. And then I'm ready for the day. I'm me, because I'm still in there, even though I'm hard to reach. You also find simple things for me to do. Sorting things, folding things, things that I can feel successful at. And it's not about being demeaning or finding something that might appear childish, but it's I can feel successful. And that is what it is. Most people all their life have folded things. That's why folding things, and you can fold them and unfold them, or sorting things are things I can feel successful. This is also the stage too, where lots of times people will collect things, and that's okay. Let them collect them. That is my activity of the day. That is what I'm enjoying doing. So if I'm going around the house and moving things, just let me move them, because it's where I want them. You may have a loved one that has always kept her drawers and her closet in perfect order, and you come over and it's just a mess. And your heart wants to fix that for them, because if they didn't have dementia, their drawers would never look like that. And if they did, they would be upset. But through the dementia, what looks like a mess to you is actually orderly to the person living with dementia. So it's okay to leave it that way, because that's what may make you uncomfortable, but it actually makes them feel comfortable and successful. Rubies are close to the end stages of dementia. Fine motor skills are gone. My ability to eat independently, walking, I definitely need standby assist if I'm still walking, and talking skills are gone. You're going to hear a lot of repetitive sounds. Let me make those sounds. Don't try to stop me. That repetitive is rhythm, and rhythm is calming. Rhythm is one of the last things to go. We all love music, but sometimes it needs to be a quiet. If you want me to take a few steps, you're going to have to make a little bounce in your step in order to connect with me. I only have a few words left, so visual cues are very important, and it's very important. The least words you use, the closer you can get to that person. If you want to share reading, listening to music, singing songs, if you want to tell this person a story, it's a good idea to actually write that story down of what you did to the day, that it can help have a conversation, because when you read, you have rhythm to your voice and they can actually connect better with you. They can make large body movements like raising their arms to push through a sleeve or hitting a ball or doing something. That's why sometimes you'll see that exercise is just hitting something back, but it's because it's the skill set I still have. And with hands-on cueing, this person can eat finger foods, but I'm no longer able to use a fork or a spoon at this point. I'm either going to need assistance from you or finger foods, and that's okay. And then, of course, the last stages of dementia, the person these are pearls, they're hidden in a shell. They usually make sounds and verbalizations. This person can move their limbs in response to stimulation. They can turn their head in response to stimulation, and they can make facial movements in response. If you have a loved one in this last stage, they still know your tone of voice, and they can feel your presence. I don't lose my love for my family members. That chemistry that you have with a loved one doesn't go away, because those are feelings and emotions. So you can still visit with me. If you used to always give me hand rubs, go ahead and massage my hands, massage my feet. Tell stories. Don't ask questions, of course, but tell them little stories. Listen to some music. And some things that maybe that she used to sing to her grandchildren, some of those songs can be really good. A favorite hymn, and this is good for rubies as well. A favorite hymn, find their Bible. What Bible quotes do they maybe have highlighted is a great way to connect with somebody, because reading hymns, singing hymns, reading Bible verses all have rhythm to them. A favorite book that she read in the past, reread that book to her. But you're connecting on a level that they can connect, and your touch is very important. What do we control? What we can't control or change. We can't control the person or who they've been. We can't control the progression of dementia. And we also have to remember they still may have other medical conditions that are contributing to things. And this one too, you can't control who's part of your family. You have to take care of yourself and do the best you can with what you have to work with. People living with dementia, what we can control is how we approach them. They need us to be their friend, not their boss. They don't like you to be their authority figure. And this goes back to when you're visiting somebody, think about what conversation, when you called your loved one on the phone, or you were living with your loved one and you came home from work, or whatever your routine was 20 years ago, was it, did you have a shower? That is not normal conversation. If I had started this class and brought everybody's faces up on the screen and said, well, good morning, I'm Susan Robbins, and I'd like to know how many of you had a shower this morning. You'd have been horrified. So is your loved one. That's not normal conversation. Plus, you can't rely with somebody with dementia, you can't really rely on that answer. And you can figure out whether somebody needs one or not without asking. Learn to let it go. No arguing, and apologize. A gift to someone living with dementia that you can give them is take responsibility for everything that's wrong, because they are struggling to stay in control. And I'm sorry, I should have done a better job. You're right, I didn't remind you of that, even though you know you have. You've written it down, you've told them maybe 10 times. But it allows them to feel successful. And what they have left is their feelings, not the reality. Go with the flow, no reality orientation. This one can be very difficult when somebody's asking for somebody that's no longer living. Have you seen my husband? Have you seen my mom? Have you seen my dad? This goes back to those repetitive questions. If I'm repeatedly asking for someone, it means I either have an emotional or a physical need, or I want to go home, even though they are home. What do you go home for? Comfort, security, rest, food, a shower. What do you want a loved one from? Maybe what I need is a hug. But also repeating back, you're missing your mom, aren't you? You're missing dad, aren't you? He really was a good dad. Now, you guys, how many years were you married? A long time, wasn't it? Was it a long time? Mm-hmm. Understand they are doing the very best they can. And if they could do better, they would. The environment. This is something you do control and change. What does it look like? Is it free from clutter? Are things in place where they can see them and get to the things that they need? Is everything that's unsafe put away? What does it sound like? How many noises are going on? People with dementia get easily distracted and can't stay focused on a task, even getting dressed or doing something different. If you're trying to give somebody a shower and the TV's going on in the background, it's scary because I can't understand that that's the TV. I may think there's people in my bedroom. And if I'm getting in the shower and I think there's people in my bedroom, I don't know about you, but I'm putting the clothes back on. There's somebody out there. But I can't verbally articulate that. I can just respond to it emotionally. And what does it feel like? Is it too loud? Is it too cold or too hot? Is there enough lighting for me to be able to see? All those things contribute to how somebody feels and reacts to living with dementia. The flow of the day. As many old routines and as habits as possible can be very helpful. Help them feel valued. If you take something away, replace it with something else. Maybe you've always made cookies. Well, you know, the magic cookie kitchen works great. Let them be a part of making the cookies. Doesn't matter what the cookies look like when they come out. And let me stir things up. And if I put too much milk in it, you know what? That's why you got that magic bag of cookies ready to go with nice hot ones that are coming out of this oven as nicely as possible and edible. It doesn't matter. I'm feeling useful. Give me something to do, but don't expect the outcome to be what it used to be. Don't forget, the person you love, spend meaningful moments with them. Finding things that you can enjoy together. I think one of the most beautiful stories I heard, there was a gentleman that would come and visit. He had her at home as long as he possibly could, but it became unsafe for him and her to be at home. So every day he would come and visit. And one of the things they had always done as a couple was to go get ice cream. So he would come get her every afternoon. They would go get an ice cream cone. And she would come back, they'd eat their ice cream cones, and it was great. And then it reached the point where she couldn't go out anymore. So he would bring the ice cream in, and they would eat the ice cream there. And finally, the ice cream cone became so messy that it became ice cream in a cup, and he would help her eat it. And that's what they did together. So he still kept the old routine of the ice cream, but he made the adjustments, and eventually it became a milkshake that she could drink through a straw. And towards the end, the milkshake had to become a very thin milkshake, maybe not quite as cold. So they enjoyed milkshakes together. Finding things to enjoy your visit that you always used to do can help your loved one feel better and enjoy the moment and give you more peace of mind. Okay, any questions? I guess you can pop those into the chat.
Yes, we do have a question. This is Gail Nixick. I was having some difficulties logging on earlier. What if we think they're sick or in pain? What are good questions to ask?
Oh, it's a beautiful question. Yes. So observe for what it is you're thinking. So ask, like, touch my arm. Does it hurt here? Does something hurt here? And pausing. Because I may not understand the word hurt or pain. So figuring out, it can be as simple as that, an ouch. Does that ouch? Does that hurt? Knowing that person, and maybe even going back to a word that y'all used to use when the grandkids were little. Do you have an owie or a boo-boo? But, asking if my arm hurts, I probably can't answer that in the later stages. And also, have I had pain before? Lots of times people forget, if I've had arthritis before I had dementia, I still have arthritis. So knowing some of those pains, and also when you touch, does somebody cringe? Watch the body language as you touch places and allowing them to point out, like your neck, does it hurt? Or have them try to swallow something, and that could tell you whether somebody had a sore throat or not. Is the swallowing a little different than normal?
Okay. And then Susan, would you also suggest simple questions about, like you said, where does it hurt, and point to your ear or your neck? Is it better to speak slowly and wait for them to acknowledge where it might hurt?
Yes. Allowing people time to respond. In the beginning stages, actually with normal aging, our brain slows down, and it can take as much as 5 seconds by the time somebody is 75 to respond to something. 5 seconds sounds fast, but when you're waiting for a response, it's that uncomfortable quiet time is very, very valuable to somebody living with dementia. The middle stages of dementia, it can take 5 to 10 seconds for them to respond. And it can take up to 20 or 30 seconds for somebody in the later stages of dementia to respond. And the responses are not always verbal. Maybe they are a head nod. So yes, start with what you think it is and what made you think there was something wrong. And then by pointing out to different places, but allowing them time to respond. So finding out where something hurts could take 15 minutes.
Okay, great.
But in that 15 minutes, you've connected with that person as well.
Great, terrific. Thanks so much for that. And Julie, our previous presenter, she was asked a question in the previous session about how much people with dementia are aware of what is happening to them.
Okay, that's a beautiful question. Yes. As we went through the different gem levels, and I'll back this up so that we can that'll help with the discussion a little bit. And by the time I'm an emerald, that middle stage, this is where I'm no longer aware of my deficits. So I no longer know there's anything wrong with me cognitively. Therefore, I'm not aware of all the things that are happening to me. And ambers, rubies, and pearls really are living in their own world, and they're traveling back in time. So I am not aware from an awareness like you and I would be if I ate my potatoes with my fingers, mashed potatoes with my fingers. I'd be horrified if I did that. Why did I do that? I'd be embarrassed. But by the time somebody is an amber, ruby, or pearl, some of those social things, they no longer matter because I'm living in my own world. My world has become very small. And it's not that I don't care about other people, but I'm struggling to just stay and function and stay focused. Therefore, what's going on around me from the embarrassment or uncomfort that you and I would feel, it doesn't matter anymore. That's why many times I call it having cognitive peers. How important it is for somebody with dementia sometimes to be around other people with dementia, because you can see two Ambers in the later stages of dementia having this conversation that you and I can't follow at all, but they're happy. Our Emeralds, where they're telling the same stories over and over again, because the person they're talking to doesn't remember that they've told them that story 10 times already today. So they are able to function and not have the anxiety that we see with their deficits. Now, diamonds are very much aware. That's at early stages of dementia. Sometimes I'm diagnosed and sometimes I'm not. I will share, if you're trying to make a decision on whether somebody should know whether they have dementia or not, many people having awareness of their disease makes it much easier for them to cope with it. Simple things like, if we always hear about, finding your keys in the refrigerator for our diamonds. If a diamond finds their keys in the refrigerator, or you and I find our keys in the refrigerator, we can go, oh, well, I had my hands full when I came in from the grocery store. And when I set the milk down, I must have just set the keys down there. You can come up with a justification. So it's okay. But diamonds and sometimes emeralds, I open up my refrigerator and there are my shoes. Well, I don't know about you, but I'd be horrified if I opened up my refrigerator and there were my shoes. So in the early stages, if I know I have dementia, I can say, oh, it was the dementia, and take them out and not tell anybody. But if I'm not aware of a diagnosis, then somebody has broken in my house or somebody has stolen my things. The stolen things and those behaviors are part of coming in and out of knowing in the early stages of dementia. And later on, I'm not aware of those things. Did that answer your question?
I think it did. Gail, it's Carol Razzo. Can you see the Q&A as well?
I cannot see the Q&A. I'm just about to read a statement and a question from Catherine. If there is something in the Q&A after I bring this up to Susan, could you please address that?
Right, we have one, so go ahead.
Okay, this one is, thank you for a great presentation. This is from Catherine. I love that you put yourself in the shoes of someone with dementia. That helped a lot. How do you reconcile not coming across as an authority figure when sometimes you do have to have that authority to keep them safe?
A good example is like safety is, are you lecturing and giving reasons why somebody shouldn't do something? Somebody that's still at home, that's still cooking. If you don't want me cooking, then you may have to turn the gas off altogether. Because if I had the ability to hang on to that to keep them safe, or it's not safe to go for a walk, take me for a walk instead of not letting me walk, because walking is something I need to do. But not arguing and not trying to reason, because I no longer, even in the early stages of dementia, have the ability to understand reasoning. So if something is completely unsafe, you have to take it away. Don't try to fix it with explain it to them. So you have to change the environment. I think changing things up. If I can't use a toaster anymore, don't have a toaster oven in the house. So, but you're going to have to replace it with something that I can use or will meet my needs. And it can be very difficult to do. Locking a door, asking somebody not to drive is a big one that comes up. So, it's just not safe. You're going to hurt somebody else. Well, I can't comprehend that anymore. My brain doesn't understand consequences for things. So you try things like taking keys away. If you don't want me driving a car, you have to remove the car. Because taking my keys, we've had people call AAA to get AAA to come out and rekey their car. They're very creative when they really want to be. So finding solutions to the things, but the solution is not to reason with them not to do it. Because if you could reason with them, then they wouldn't have a brain that's dying.
And I
Okay.
think that brings us to our next question from the Q&A from Susan. How do you handle when your loved one wants to give her car away to a relative and she cannot afford financially to give it away, but she feels she has a lot of dollars, but really has no concept of what her money situation is?
Then the conversation has to be with the person, the reasonable conversation has to be with the person that she's trying to give the car to.
Right.
I mean, those are things that seem that can be very difficult conversation. That goes back to you can't control who's in your family. But instead of trying to reason with her that she doesn't have the money, because then I start getting afraid. What do you mean I don't have the money? Did you steal my money? And Susan, it can become that you've stolen her money because I know I had a bunch of money. So what do you mean I can't? So because I listen, it's odd the things that are important. Just like when it went back to when she was giving everyone directions with the virtual, the Dementia Live, almost all of you heard Social Security because that's important to most people. What's going to happen to your Social Security? Even if you didn't hear anything, you did. So people living with dementia also grasp things out of the air and hang on to. So instead of becoming about the car, it can turn into that you did it. So the conversation has to be with that person. Now, if she wants the car gone, then you can move the car to some other place and choose to give that to that person or deal with however you want to deal with that car.
Thank you. And we have one more question in the Q&A from Linda. Is there a certain time frame regarding the progression of one level to the next?
There is not. Everybody's progression is very different. Sometimes people don't even get diagnosed until they're in the emerald stage or later. And different dementias progress differently as well. Alzheimer's progresses pretty much through these stages. But somebody with vascular dementia may be one level in the morning and another level in the afternoon. And it varies, or I may be totally cognitively intact and then I'm not, which makes it very difficult if you're caring for that loved one because you have to reset because you don't know whether you're interacting with a diamond or an amber, and it can change. But the flow, some people it's 10 years, 15 years, but it's 5 to 10, 5 to 6, 8, somewhere in there from the time somebody is diagnosed usually. And it can progress much faster. And some people can stay functional at one level and then all of a sudden drop 2 or 3 as well. So unfortunately, there is no set time frame on these.
We have another question in Q&A from Shar. My husband is blind in addition to early stage dementia. In the evening, he believes we are staying at another home, but he gets angry because every place we stay is just like our home.
Then agree. You are right. We are going to have to find a different place. It is just like our home. This is weird. Agree with him instead of trying to say, well, this is our home. We're not somewhere else. That's a delusion. And some of it can be brought on by the loss of sight. I don't know if the loss of sight is new or something he's always had, but that's disorienting because even with dementia, even though it narrows, you can still have some sight. But don't try to reason. Well, it's good that way. That way you know where everything is or anything like that. You're like, yeah, this is weird. Living in their delusion, and that is a delusion, is very comforting to them and supporting, because now we're in this quagmire together instead of you trying to fix it for me when you can't fix my broken brain. We can't fix dementia by reasoning someone.
Okay, thank you, Susan. There's also a question in the chat. So many spam calls we get now. Any way that we can try to talk to our loved one about not answering the callers when it's an unknown caller?
I have not had that question before, other than going through and blocking those things, but I know how useful that is. First of all, you're not going to convince them not to answer their phone, because the dementia is not going to allow that. And eventually they won't answer their phones and you'll want them to. Other than blocking the calls, because that's an outside thing. And
I guess maybe.
Is there a setting? The only thing I can think of is possibly, is there a setting on the phone that only allows certain calls to answer? And that may be something your carrier could provide you with. I don't have a good answer for that.
Okay. Okay. Carol,
I'm sorry. I wish I did.
I know it is kind of a tough one, but it's true. We're all getting all sorts of calls, spam calls. And I think everyone's first instinct is you hear a phone and you want to answer it, and it'd be certainly a hard conversation. One
thing too, though, make sure they don't have access to credit cards or those type things, so that you can at least avoid those things.
Okay. Carol, do you see one more? Do we have a time for one more in the chat?
Yes, we do have, we've got two here. I could put them together. How do you handle or confront stubbornness? Oftentimes my mother will refuse to leave her bed, eat, drink for hours. My father is beside himself and gets very frustrated. And then someone asked if there was a change in vision correlated with one particular gem level.
Okay, I'll answer. The gem levels do progress. And as you progress, the field of vision narrows, that bubble of awareness that she talked about earlier. The middle stage is like having binoculars on. If you put binoculars on and look around, that's the middle stage of what I can comprehend. It's not what I can see, it's what I can comprehend at one time. And then it becomes the last, towards an amber, maybe the later stages where my language skills are pretty gone, is going to be monocular, where I'm only seeing I'm only processing one eye at a time, and I'm losing my depth perception. So I can only see, it's like in a tunnel, just directly in front of me.
Okay, and then the other question was,
the getting out of bed.
Yes,
that
exactly.
is always a challenge. Yes. And what happens is many times we're trying to get somebody to live on our schedule. And with dementia, I get my days and my nights mixed up. And it becomes stubborn is the right word, but what it is I'm fighting to stay in control of my life. If I want to stay in bed, then the easier thing to do is in the moment to allow me to stay in bed. The more you fight me to do it, and then and keep coming back, you need to get up, and no reason it's time to get up. Instead of, you need to get up, you can't lay in bed all day. And these things are hard to do, especially with spouses, because you've probably had some of those conversations. You need to get up and get this done. We need to get this done. but it's giving them control. I know you're still sleepy. You want to sleep for a few more minutes? So, and also somebody said it's a form of shutdown, because if I'm not functioning, as long as I can stay by myself, you're not going to realize how much dementia I have going on. Thank you for that reminder there as well. Is people become withdrawn lots of times in the beginning stages, or if you have and won't get up, because if I get up, you're going to figure out I'm unstable, or you're going to figure out I'm forgetful, and I'm trying to hide those things. So it's like pulling the covers up over your head. Another thing that happens lots of times, if you have somebody that keeps going to the bathroom, it may not be that they have to go to the bathroom. They may be emotionally resetting so they can figure out what I need to do. And somebody else will put too, maybe I don't know how to get out of bed. Maybe getting up is hard as I lose some of those motor skills as well. But a lot has to do with how we approach and being supportive, not being the boss. You need to get up. Because I'm going to, with the dementia, where my processing is and my frontal temporal lobe damage, I cannot process. And when you tell me to do something, I shut down.
Great, thank you. Well, we're out of time. We thank you again, Susan. That was a really great presentation. Great questions from everyone.